computer. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. I hope you're super energized and charged up now that we've kicked everything off. I want to introduce to you somebody really special and really close to my heart with the passion and the work that she does, Miss Brittany Young. Brittany, say hello.
Hello, everyone. Very grateful to be here with you all. Thank you, Trisha, for hosting this beautiful summit.
Oh, God, it's my first one, but it's been such an experience, and I'm just, I don't know, overjoyed. I don't know what other words to put to it. But Brittany, your story is just incredibly powerful. And so I'd like to ask you if maybe you can start by sharing how your personal journey with alcohol became a turning point in your life. Right? Like I
Mhm.
love the title of your talk. So, how did that happen for you?
Yeah, I often say alcohol saved my life because truly it did. And now it becomes my work and my calling, my purpose, my anointing. My story began when I was 17 years old in the back seat of a car, and I was unfortunately assaulted in the back seat of that car and spent a decade drinking that pain away and never really being able to feel comfortable in my skin or being able to express how I was feeling, what I went through, how that damaged not just my psyche, but overall experience in life. And so I often turn to alcohol to numb pain, to unwind, to relax, to feel like it was my crutch. It is the thing that got me through pharmaceutical sales. Alcohol was also my best friend when I was in the chemical sales industry, as well as oil and gas. And it was just the thing that I turned to, and it was the thing that I knew that was always going to, keep me safe, or so I thought. When in reality, it was the drug, which is extremely powerful, that brought me to my knees. And I'm grateful for that. Um, I feel like that's a good summarization to kind of leave you on your toes and not give you the full story.
I you're right. And I'm sitting here and I'm relating with you and feeling like, our journeys mirrored each other, maybe not same ages, not same exact anything, but very much everything. And I know that that is true for a lot of people listening, and perhaps not to the level or the extreme that it was for us,
Mhm.
but in their own version. So resilience, right, being a key point, I'm sure. But um, what was that moment when that resilience, that push through the toughest times, like really gave you that? Like, I mean, you got where you are now somehow, and so where's
Mhm.
that turning point?
It was September of 2013, and I was at a bar because that's what I did on the weekends. And I would drink alone. And I was sitting there and I picked up my phone and I called my dad. And very rarely did I call my father, of all people, when I was drinking. And I asked a very simple question and was looking for a very simple answer and did not get the answer that I was looking for. And so the conversation was, how do I stop drinking? What's the best way to do this? And he said, I have exhausted all options with you. We offered rehab, you said no. We offered, divine intervention, you said no. And what's it going to take for you to just stop? And I said, I don't know. That's why I'm calling you. What does it look like? And he screamed on the other end of the phone, just stop, and hung up. And my dad's very intense. So if you can imagine someone on the other end of the phone and you're holding the phone like all the way out here as they're screaming these words. So I went home that night and I was angry, really, really angry. And anger was just the messenger to the breakthrough of becoming resilient in this recovery journey. And I say that with a lot of hope for those who might be on the same journey to use whatever emotion that is driving you to drink. Can you turn that around and see it as the messenger? And so for me, anger was the thing that stuck out the most, and it was begging me to surrender. And so when I got home, I just collapsed in my bed and called out to God, and I said, I can't do this anymore. I'm so upset with my dad. I'm so upset with myself. I don't know how to do this alone. If you do exist, show me. Show me the path. What does it look like to get sober? How do I even start? And then I fell asleep. And when I woke up the next day, I heard, get your laptop. So I opened up my laptop and very feverishly was typing how to get sober alone. And I came across this story about a man who was part of the CrossFit Games. And CrossFit was really big in the, mid 2000s. And the story goes that he was a heroin addict and he shot up heroin before the CrossFit Games, came in last place, locked himself in a closet with a couple of gallons of water and some bread for 3 days before deciding to go off to treatment. And after a year of sobriety, he went back into the CrossFit Games and came in third place and then retired because he knew this was not for him. And he became a motivational speaker, became a coach, he became an advocate for recovery for those who are addicted to opiates. And I saw this story and I went, wow, if this gentleman can do this and get sober from heroin, I can surely kick alcohol. So I started researching the closest CrossFit gyms. How do I, book an appointment? Where is it? Found one about 20 minutes north of me, went the next day, showed up, walked up to the front desk, started telling the gentleman there, hey, I'm like 48 hours sober. I may or may not throw up all over your floor. This is going to be a disaster. Just giving you a heads up. And he's not even looking at me. He's typing away. And all of a sudden, he spins his chair around, stares me down, and goes, hi, my name is Tim. It's really nice to meet you. By the way, I have 5 years of sobriety. Welcome to the gym. Come on in. And that really began my journey of resilience, of getting to know myself all over again and really building from that foundation.
Wow. That's a really incredible journey. Or I have to say, like, hearing that style of this is how I knew I was done. I can't say I've heard that one before, right? But that's awesome because there are so many different versions. I myself was just like, I'm done, right? Like just I'm done, but I checked into, a traditional hospital detox. So, we all kind of, do our different thing and that's pretty amazing. How long did that relationship there at CrossFit? How long did that stick around?
I stayed at that particular gym for a year and a half before I moved to Austin, Texas, where I'm currently residing now. But I still stay in touch with Tim and still very good friends with him.
That's awesome. Those are good things to hear.
Yeah.
So, at some point, right? And I feel this, right? Like there's that point where we shift from solely focusing on ourselves, but when we wake up and we start noticing like, huh, my life's improving drastically, on a personal, professional level. And how am I making that happen? And wow, how can I help others do this, do a similar journey for themselves? So what did that transitional space look like for you?
I was just a regular, sales rep trying to make it prior to getting sober. And when I made the decision to surrender and get sober, the explosion of sales started to occur because I woke up from my delusion of selfish and self-centeredness to, oh my gosh, I'm here to serve other people. And because sales is service, the company I was working for started giving me more responsibility. They started seeing me as an authority in the space. And I turned my territory around from, a couple hundred accounts to over 300 clients. And it went from $800,000 to over $8 million dollars in 2.5 years, which is enormous amount of growth. And I was 27 at the time. So to be able to, and by the way, I need to say this, that was without hustling. So imagine if I were quote unquote hustling. That was really just being in my element, understanding self-awareness, understanding that it's okay to embody self-awareness, to build relationships that are genuine without alcohol, and then take action from there. And the action was really just getting to know people on a personal level. And instead of selling them, understanding their problem, understanding that what I was offering was the core solution that they were looking for. And till this day, Trisha, I get people from a decade ago calling and saying, hey, I know that you're not part of this company anymore. It's been a really long time, but do you know anybody? I can't get a hold of anyone. And I say that with all due respect, customer service is always going to be the foundation of everything that we do. And if you are trying to sell your way to the top or build your company or your territory, if you're in sales, it's relationship, it's people over profit. And if you can do that sober or without substance, you're going to win every single time.
Oh, 100%. Like I thoroughly believe that once we realize we don't need or that it's in our best interest to stop relying on
Hmm.
giving an emotional purpose to some substance that has no feeling, that has no care truly for us, like whether that's Ben and Jerry's, alcohol, or heroin in your, initial mentor's case, right? Like, once we realize that it doesn't fix anything, that we've come to look towards it to bring us peace, joy, comfort, relief, value, validity, and worthiness, and it's inappropriate and it's not giving us any of those things, then we go, oh wow, I can give that to myself. And usually people have to also learn how to not expect that from other people.
Yes.
The locus of control is that, and we tend to, as a species, operate a lot in that external drive. But I love your focus on helping people see that, this cycle that happens when we have high levels of alcohol, or even just regular everyday, what people would consider regular everyday drinking in our lives, Monday through Friday. People are like, oh well, I go out on Thursday, I don't drink Monday through Thursday, I drink on the weekend. Well, that weekend bender, right, sets you up for a week of stress, anxiety, and depressive states, just by
Hmm.
the nature of the substance you ingested all week, or all weekend. Would that be accurate?
Yes, and I would also add that it's blocking you from becoming your true version of success. And so What we often do is use substance to validate our external achievements. I can go and sell my way to the top because I'm going to take my customers out for drinks and we're going to close deals over the table. That's what we call the old man model of selling.
Mm.
That's dead. If you want to build genuine relationships and connections, it starts with redefining what success is for you. And I think a lot of us go on these benders on the weekends because we are refusing to look at ourselves. If I held a mirror up to you and I said, "Who's inside of that mirror?" You would say, "Oh, it's just Johnny." But there's somebody behind Johnny. And what are the emotions that you're trying to block from truly seeing who you are in all that you are being? And I know I might sound a little woo, but this can be very logical. I mean, alcohol, it's going to dull you from closing a big deal. And there are some really amazing people out there in the world today that are sober. And yeah, and they are creating purpose. And it all comes back to they trust themselves, they know that they're worthy, and they don't need a crutch like alcohol or food or sex to create and redefine success.
So, you know, I'd like to, like maybe direct success to even a broader audience, even, for those stay-at-home moms that are with us here,
Sure.
right? Like, and you still have, youngster at home. Mine are all grown and I'm on the grandkids, but we have to look at this in a space of I need to be the CEO of my home.
Hmm.
So, how has that impacted, how you've put together your home, or how do you share with folks in that type of a scenario? Because they're like, I'm not selling anything, you know, but we're still guiding, and we're still a CEO, even though.
Yeah. You are selling every day, all day as a mom. You have to sell your kids to eat, to brush their teeth, put on their pajamas. So yes, I look at everything through the lens of sales because I have a 4-year-old, and so I have to constantly sell her on eating healthy and getting to bed on time, which doesn't work, but we're getting there. Um, but if you are that stay-at-home mom and you are turning towards substance because you want to block out the annoying, husband or kids that are constantly driving you nuts, and you're running into the closet to take a sip of wine, or you're part of those wine down Wednesdays, or I don't know all the slogans anymore. I've been out of the game for 11 years, but rosé all day, all these, wine clubs, mommy's sippy cup, and you have your own. I would ask you why. Why do you feel that is necessary to be part of your experience of life? And what are you trying to mask?
Mm.
And the chances, if I asked you that question, you would probably say, "Oh, it helps me unwind. It helps me relax. It helps me get into a better state or frame of mind." When in reality, ladies, what it's actually doing, as Trisha mentioned, is it's putting you in anxiety, in depression, in anger. And you cannot be vulnerable the next day after a couple of glasses or a whole bottle of wine. You continue to dull those emotions. And there's many studies behind this. And I just read an article right before this call where 56% of women between the ages of 40 and 64 were hospitalized during the pandemic for alcohol related issues.
Wow.
So 1 out of 2 women in this country went to the hospital for alcohol poisoning or some sort of alcohol related experience. And as a nation in the US right now, as of last year, the amount of women drinking alcohol has increased to 32%. And for men, it went down by 54%. And really, it's because we women feel the pressure of having to do it all, having to manage the home, having to run a business or go to work 9 to 5. And what I see often in my coaching practice is you're doing this to yourself because you're not asking for the help that you need. And so you turn towards alcohol as your helper
Mm-hmm.
rather than your partner or your husband or your spouse and saying the simple words of, I need help. I can't do this by myself. And again, that anger or frustration, those emotions are there, but you're blocking them with the drink instead of simply just saying the words, help me. Can somebody please help me?
Do you think a lot of that, or a big part of that, is that perfectionism, fear of failure, being seen as less than or incapable? Do you feel like, and I, all the all the world talking about imposter syndrome. I'm like, I can't keep up with all of the little phrases we come up with, because I don't necessarily think it's an imposter syndrome. I think it just boils down to personal esteem,
Hmm.
and our conditioned way of talking to ourselves from childhood through, and whose message did we adopt, and how did we translate it to ourselves, and how is it negatively skewing our ability to experience living the way that we would like. Anyway, I will go into my spiel because mine's in a couple of days. But I think a lot of it is, we don't want to tell our spouse that we need help with something because, whatever reason, or we
Hmm.
don't want to reach out to a teammate inside of our, workspace, and say, wow, how can you support me with this? Like I'm feeling overwhelmed. I'm feeling drained. I sit in a lot of, business networking spaces, as I know you do. It's one of those spaces where we, identify, clients, or people realize who we are. And, but I listen a lot, and it's that stress, the overwhelm, and the burnout that is so self-inflicted. And so many people, because they're up here, they're executives, they feel like, oh, I have all this education, like I don't need, right? I don't need a coach to talk to me about my emotional well-being. I'm good. I'm just stressed. My job is big. It's whatever. And I feel like that's, a big deterrent for people to actually succeed. One of my favorite things is when a client comes to me for something not alcohol related, right? Because I'm not going to diagnose you. I'm not going to diagnose you, but I may point some things out, but through the process that we walk, I just realized I haven't poured a glass of wine or a drink in a month, and I didn't even realize it. Like I just didn't want it anymore. I didn't have a need for it, and that's
Hmm.
really uncanny to me because we didn't even talk about it. And I'm like, cool, right? Like cool, right? That's for you to come to. So I know you've made a significant impact in the lives of high performing individuals, and I'd like to know, like, how do you use your story to guide them, or without going into your whole blueprint, right? Because everybody's going to have access to you, through your freebie, your reflection sheet. But like, so how do you, right, like how do you suggest to people or guide them based on your your own personal successes?
Hmm. Well, a couple of things. This is the point where I say, would you rather live in your logic and try to continue to justify where you are and continue to go? Or are you ready to break free and actually feel through the experience? Because feeling is healing. And if you truly do want to make a success, an impact, a movement, whatever the case may be, then you will learn how to feel. And it doesn't matter what age you start. I had a client that came to me back in 2022, and she said, I'm ready to leave my father's financial firm and start my own. We had to work through the worthiness issues and the trust issues in order for her to even begin looking at what it would take to start her own financial firm. There was no way that she was going to be able to break free from that without feeling through it. Today, she has 9 advisors under her. Her firm is worth over $100 million. She has a multimedia company associated with her financial firm. She's written 4 best-selling books, and she continues to thrive. Why? Because she chose to trust herself. She chose to become vulnerable. And there's nothing more sexy than a vulnerable CEO. And you'll come across, whoever is listening, you will come across those stiff board high executives or high level people who just want to have surface level conversations. They're everywhere. And what I often see, and correct me if I'm wrong, is those people prefer to go with the herd.
Mhm.
So they like to travel together in the herd and be very herd mentality. We all always have done it this way. We've always sold products this way. We've always parented this way. It's when God, source, universe goes, oh, I'm going to pluck you, person, and put you over here. And you're going on a separate journey, the road less traveled. If you're familiar with Robert Frost, great poem. You're going to travel this road, whether you like it or not. There's going to be bumps, bruises, trips and falls. And yet on the other side, you create such a beautiful ripple effect because you're teaching how to go from prison to freedom. Do you accept the call? Yes or no? And so when I'm working with somebody, this is one of the questions that I ask them. Are you ready to reclaim what is yours? Because if you're not, I am not the person for you. If you want to heal your mindset, I am the person for you. If you want to understand that emotions are the gateway to your success, I am the person for you. And if you're willing to take massive action, whether it's business, personal, it doesn't matter, they're all intertwined, then let's do it. And at the end of the day, what you will receive from our work together is you're no longer going to question your worth. You're no longer going to feel like you have to prove yourself to receive. And you innately trust who you are, and you get to create from that. And that is my gift that I get to bring into this world.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's really beautiful. So for the folks, because we're just getting started with this amazing 11 days, right? Because we're just getting started, we're just getting ramped up. If you were to, and of course, there's that reflection worksheet below, but if you were to give everybody that, like, this is the piece, right? Without having to join and do anything, like, after listening to this message, these are the things that you can do right here, right now in your life. Boom, starting now to start learning how to, I don't know, this is the way I describe it, learning how to hear how, what you feel and articulate, meaning
Hmm.
let's broaden that vocabulary, peeps, right? Like saying, hey, I'm good, is shallow. So, how would you, um, motivate everybody to move forward in the day or whatever time of day it is that they're listening to move forward, utilizing that reflection sheet and incorporating it into their life?
We're going to start with a simple reframe, especially for women. If you start noticing yourself saying sorry for everything, what does it look like to say thank you instead? The other piece is forgiveness. When's the last time you actually sat with yourself and said, I forgive you?
Mm.
Because we don't do that. We don't take the time, number one, for ourselves, and then we want to blame everybody else. And number two, we don't forgive because we find it to be scary or oh my gosh, who am I to forgive myself? This is a daily practice of mine at the end of the day when I take personal responsibility and inventory on how the day went, personal reflection in prayer. I'm always wondering, you know, who did I need to forgive or what did I need to forgive of myself? What went right? Not necessarily what went wrong for the day, but where can I self-correct? And again, this always comes back to self-awareness. If you are not willing to be emotionally connected with yourself, you're going to really struggle in the area of forgiveness. So, can you start with, I had this emotion. I wonder where it came from. Where is it in my body? Why is it there? Getting really curious around it. And then we can start the forgiveness work. So I kind of went backwards a little bit, but I think you'll get the drift.
And I think that's great. And, again, it's all about, you know, giving, people some actionable steps. I mean, here we are, it's the final quarter of the year, and it's the general time where everybody just throws everything to, by the wayside. And they're like, well, I'm going to do this in January. I'm going to have this, New Year's resolution, this, that, and the other thing. And sure, okay, whatever, if that's what blows your dress up. But giving them things right here, right now, that they can actually just small little bite-sized piece things that they can actually do and incorporate into their life, their busy lives, as it's going to get increasingly busier, because that's what we like to call it. Holidays are one day. Well, okay, Hanukkah, longer, but as a general rule, Halloween's a day. People will block, that whole week out. It's Halloween, got to be, busy. Thanksgiving, I know I'm guilty. I block out the whole week because I'm cooking, right? Like that's my week to cook everything from scratch. Then there's Christmas. And anyway, we kind of lose that whole final quarter, and it just sets us up to, to wait for January 1 to start that resolution space. And here's the deal, especially if, your relationship with alcohol is part of your resolution. The minute it strikes midnight, you're already behind the game and you've already not lived up to the expectation of your resolution. I don't know about you, Brittany, but I started my 2025 plan on October the 1st.
Hmm.
It's this is not time to sit down and go, pull the blanket over. It's time to, like really connect with the self and look, even if it's just soul searching for the rest of the quarter of, you know, how can I, what did you say? Self-correct?
Hmm.
Yeah. How can I self-correct? So I love this. I think this is a beautiful way to be starting our very first day of looking at it. And so I'm looking forward to doing the reflection sheet. and sitting in that space. Do you have any parting thoughts? Because I want to, I want to mention, and people are going to get tired of hearing me say this. If you haven't booked your feedback session, do, because that's where everybody gets to have to get their free gifts from all of the speakers, because we want your feedback. We want to know how you experience this space, so that before we come back we can
Mm-hmm.
correct, make improvements. So anyway, before we let everybody go for this segment, what are some parting thoughts?
Your community, your home, your partner, your kids, insert whoever that is for you, wants your vulnerability. Where do you start? It's not about the how as much as it is who's the why behind it. So insert person or place or thing, whatever it is, could be your dog. They need that vulnerability from you. Give it, allow it, and then receive it.
Big one. That's a big one. And I'm going to leave that sit right there, because even we forget, right? We forget to be vulnerable
Mm-hmm.
with those closest to us,
Yeah.
you know? And I'm guilty of, not wanting to burden my spouse with an emotional space that I might be in, because I don't want him to, he might be traveling or whatever. And I've actually, in at the time that we're recording this, it was the week of loss for me. And dear client of mine passed away suddenly, and so it's been, and I allowed myself to be vulnerable in that space, and wow, was it so helpful
Mm-hmm.
to be vulnerable with him about all of the mental processing that I needed to do. So anyway, thank you for that. That's an amazing tidbit to leave us all with.
You're
I
welcome. And what I also want to add is you allow other people to hold space for you when you're vulnerable, just like your husband held space for you. People want to make space for you. And if you're surrounded by, people that don't make space for you, you need new friends. You need new community. And it's part of the reason why I built a community was because I realize not only do we need to redefine success, but we have to give ourselves permission to be seen and appreciated for who we are, and allow other people to give us what we need rather than trying to hold it all together. I'm a mess. I don't have it all together. I firmly admit that,
you have
and I'm
a
okay with that. Yeah. And I, d- there's dishes in the sink. So what? So
I didn't make
what?
my bed today.
Neither did we. So what? Who cares? Does that mean that I'm less successful? Is the gentleman that wrote the, make your bed book going to come after me? Absolutely not.
Oh,
We
so
have to give ourselves permission to be okay with not being all right every single day, and to just allow ourselves to fold into somebody else.
it's the best.
Hmm.
I folded into the couch with my dogs on Tuesday,
There
right?
you
Like
go.
I just did. I was like, holy cow. My day was done at like 3. I don't know. I think it was 4:30. I was on the couch. Totally not my style. But I'm like, come just huddle with me, you know?
Yeah.
And it's the best.
Hmm.
It is the best to just allow yourself, to learn how to hear what you need
Yep.
for you, and who maybe you need it from, and why.
Yes. Yeah. And you're giving them the gift of receiving as well. And so There's so much to this. We could probably spend more time on it, but we'll leave it here.
Well, and you know what? The community chat is there. And so there's a day one chat that will go with these, the three presentations released today. And you can chat in there. There's also, the general chat where, people can share their wins. So I really want to encourage everybody, to jump in there. Brittany will come in when she has time and check it out and answer or just engage. I'm going to be in there just engaging in conversation. Like, we're here to collaborate as human beings, right? How to self-correct, to piggyback off of what you're sharing here. We're here for that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We're here so that as a collective whole, we can start to do better. And for ourselves. Anyway, thank you so much. I really value and appreciate you.
Thank you.
I look forward to spending this week with you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
You are welcome. So everybody, we'll see you in the next segment. Don't forget to download your reflection sheet. We'll talk to you soon.